in the sense of like letting you know what's been happening in all these providential places with events. My talk is really about having providential purpose. It's really about living your life with a sense of providential purpose. No matter what it is, or where you are, or what it is like you're doing, what is your providential purpose, your providential sense of purpose? So, I found myself about a year ago just being asked out of the blue to come to Cape Town and to support the Blessing and Summit over there. And they were in a bit of a situation, so they were kind of trying to find someone to take care of some production and stage and some kind of logistics out there. So, yeah, basically at that time I could go, so I went to Cape Town, and that was the first experience I had working on one of these large-scale events, and then suddenly finding myself, in the middle of it all, running basically the summit, which is usually the format for these big, summit events. They're connected with usually a big, in this sense, it was the Africa Summit, and it was in conjunction with the Mandela family, and so we were dealing with a lot of various stakeholders and performers. And it was all a bit last minute for me because I was kind of just brought in. But at least I had about 3 days to prepare to do the summit, and then to run the Blessing, and then also some other kind of cultural event. So I just got thrown in, and I just basically tried to do what I can. But for me, everything I do is always about pretty much the same thing. My mission is to make films. That's what I do. That's everything I've done since I was a teenager is always the same thing. Even if it's fundraising, I'm thinking, no, I'm making a film. This is my crew, this is my team, I'm making a movie, making a film. And so I feel like, even when I'm going there, what am I really doing? All I'm really trying to do is to give people the sense of the story. What is the story? When you go to the Blessing, what is the story? What is the experience that you would like them to have? Just like, if I'm making a horror film, a scary film, then I want people in the theatre when they're watching that to have those moments where they go, or they cover their face, right? Because that's the whole point, is that I want to scare them. That's the whole point. It's meant to be a horror. They're meant to jump out of their seats. And I'm hoping that they will, because that was the whole point, And with the Blessing, of course, the main intention is to make them feel like they have been blessed. They should feel like it was a blessing. That, wow, they had this moment where they felt connected. They felt connected, even for those who are maybe not so clear about what is it really all about, but they have this real sense of like, in that moment, on that day, I was part of something much bigger than just me. I was a part of something that felt like there was a higher purpose going on. There was a sense of more than just me, and even perhaps something divine. Because people are coming to these Blessings are from all walks of life. They're coming from all different kinds of backgrounds. And then some of them have not really understood perhaps, that much. But, they like the idea. They might just have a sense of the concept. It's a bit like, again, going out to watch a film. Like you're going to go and watch The Avengers. And all you know is it's going to be some big action film, right? You don't, you think, but you kind of know what it is. So you just go, and of course you want to be entertained. And as long as it entertains you, you feel like, yeah, that was a good film. So there are some people who even come to these big Blessings, and actually their preparation is sometimes quite limited. But nevertheless, when they are there in that moment, all I'm thinking is, how can we create an experience where they really, truly feel like they have been blessed? That was a blessing. That's it. It sounds straightforward, but that's what I'm trying to do. And everything is basically creating that moment. And it's the same with the summit. The summit should be a real sense of like, discussing the real nitty-gritty. It's basically the foundation of substance, right? You have to have faith, of course, foundation of faith. But the way I look at it is the summit is, let's get down to business, right? Like the song goes, let's get down to actually finding out, how are we going to do this? How are we really going to build bridges of peace? So like, for example, now I'm working on this Balkan project, and we have something called the Balkan Peace Road, which is literally people coming, on their bicycles or maybe their rollerblades or skateboards and traveling to these cities which were once basically one big community. It was called Yugoslavia. And that's like, oh, we don't say that word, taboo, because like now it's all broken up. And that region is still being fragmented today, right? Like North Macedonia, it's all still being broken up. But these people were connected as community, as brothers and sisters, they had a sense of that, belonging. But as we can see, if those things are not reconciled, then they continue to fester and they continue to be a problem, not just for this generation, but generations to come. So even if you look at a situation like India and Pakistan were one country, not that long ago. It was divided by the British, and now you have a situation like Kashmir. And you have people who are second, third generation, born in this country, who are from Indian origin or Pakistani origin, who actually hate the other. They never had no direct, conflict with a Pakistani or with an Indian. But because they've grown up with the baggage that was passed on, they still carry that hate. And we see that in so many regions. We see that even in places where, being dark-skinned and light-skinned is a thing. Like, I'm working on another film in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, if you're lighter skinned or darker skinned, it's a big thing in terms of what is considered beautiful or who should be reading the news on TV and so on and so on. And it creates a sense of these barriers. So all these things that we're doing is all about how do we actually break that down? How do we create bridges? How do we make some kind of road to redemption for all of this? Because that's like I said, that is the substance. Without foundation of faith, without foundation of substance, you cannot receive the Messiah. You need both. So that's kind of how I see it. That's what we're kind of doing. That's the bigger picture. But at the same time, I wanted to kind of show you first, just to give you a sense of some of the things that we've been doing. I wanted to show you some videos because foundation of substance doesn't have to be always serious, It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, we're going to have some really heavy conversation. Foundation of substance can be joyful. It can be around, it's really about going out there and being a people person, right? It's not doing it in your head. I'm making peace in my head. No, it's about being out there, serving, being out there, and actually growing your heart, expanding your ability to actually love. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you some videos from Sao Tome that we were working on, just to give you a sense of what foundation of substance can actually be, right? So I'm going to draw the curtains, and then Joseph is going to play. So yeah, basically, Sao Tome began months ago with a bunch of service projects and a big summer camp. And a lot of the people that you saw in the video, the first one, they're all basically local students. It's a bit like doing a harp summer camp workshop. And afterwards, everyone's really inspired and they don't want to go home. So guess what happened? We rented 2 large homes, had a big sister's house and a big brother's house. Most of those students ended up staying with us. And they worked as volunteers for over a month. Just completely, they said to their families, yeah, no, actually we want to go and do this thing. And of course, the families were like, okay, if it's something positive and you want to be that kind of volunteer, that's great. And so they literally worked with us. We had these big houses where we used to call them the mamas. The mamas were there to cook for us, and every day there was just chicken. There's lots of chicken in Sao Tome. They call it frango, right? And so every day was frango. There's just chicken, and that was the menu basically. But it was pretty good chicken. It was the kind of chicken that tasted like organic chicken that you buy expensive here, but it was so cheap over there. But anyway, that's the food. But yeah, essentially those volunteers were with us the whole time, and even towards the end they had a chance because they were just doing everything, just with us, going out into the regions. One of the projects we were doing was called Young Sounds for Peace, which is basically a music singing competition. And we go to the regions Sao Tome and Principe, so it's 2 little islands. It's one nation, but 2 little islands as one nation. So going all around the island to the different regions, and we pulled up in a truck which had a stage on the back, and then we'd invite people to come up on the truck and sing. And basically it was like The Voice. So people would come and they would sing, and we'd have 3 judges, and by the end of the evening we would choose the best singer. And then at the end, where we had this YSP festival, We basically had the 7 finalists and they would come and sing. So they were doing everything from like the singing competition to going out, door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, inviting people to come to the blessing. And like literally they did not, they had very little education, as I guess we would call it, but they were just super excited to want to do something, to be involved. And together with that, we had all, like, for example, the second video, which was on the beach, just in front of the beach. The guy was from Brazil, he's one of our second generation, and then the girl was actually from Sao Tome. She's, again, one of these students, and she was really great in terms of we did lots of videos with her, just to kind of promote the concert, the festival. So one of the things we did is, like, if you're familiar with unboxing videos on YouTube, yeah? So basically an unboxing video is where you have usually like a mobile phone, or it could be something like a tablet or even a laptop, and somebody who makes a little video of them opening up the box. It's like, wow, my new Galaxy, whatever Note, whatever the new one is, or their new iPhone. We made videos like that, which were basically talking about, not just, because the phone was essentially one of the prizes we were giving away, but by making a video like that, we were essentially promoting the festival. So it looked like an unboxing video, but actually it was promoting the festivals, like be there on the 7th, and they would say all these things like Fique bem and whatever. I don't speak Portuguese, but anyway, I learned a little bit when I was there. But in other words, we were trying to do something in a much more youthful way to reach the country, because guess what? 70% of Sao Tome and Principe is just young people. 70%, like, under 30 basically. So I knew as soon as I got there that, it had a real big kind of influence in terms of like what I was saying earlier, like who is the audience? Who is the audience? And trying to clarify them, what do we actually really want to do? So typically, for example, if we do like a youth concert, it's essentially like we say, oh yeah, it's going to be a youth event, or it's a young people's event, or it's a young and person's event. But actually what we get obsessed with often in the planning is the VIPs. Oh, where are the VIPs going to sit? Where do we put the VIPs and all these delegates that have come? And for me, this was like a complete misdirection in terms of like, what are we really trying to do? Because if it's a youth and student event, let's just focus on the young people. Let's make it their event and not get sidetracked with all these other things, which are actually, that's not our main audience. So in the end, we did this huge concert. I'm going to now switch to my laptop, and I'm going to show you one of the things that we did. Here we go. Am I on? Works. Okay, good. This is the kind of detail that we have to go into when we do these events, and I'm just going to really whiz through it, but I wanted to share it with you just to give you the sense of all the groundwork that goes into doing these things. So here's just like some basic overview of what actually goes on. So just the basic outline, what's going to be happening, organizational chart, and here we go, summary. And we're talking about numbers, we're talking about heads of state. This at some point these things are kind of private, confidential. We don't want people to know exactly who might be coming, which head of state or which prime minister. So, but eventually everybody knows, of course, when the event happens. But you can see, like, first we're looking at this group F, VIPs, etc. And then even true mother, like, how do we get mother from the airport, basically to the hotel? And we're looking at every single detail, where she goes, where's her room, where's her bathroom, is the bathroom. So basically, in the Parliament building of Sao Tome, the Parliament building, the toilets were terrible. This is the Parliament where they also. So we had to repair the toilets. So you might be thinking, like, when you do an event like this, it's like, oh yeah, we're just thinking about where do we want to design and put our banners. We have to look at every little detail. So even if the toilet is like, it was really bad, and it's like, this is your Parliament. This is really not, up to standard. So, but they don't want to take responsibility for it, so guess what? We have to do that. At the place where we performed the concert, which was the big YSP concert, it was basically in front of the National Stadium, and the roads were just really bad. This is like potholes on a whole new level. It was really bad, and we knew we were going to have about 20,000 people, and they're like they were like ditches in the road. But again, because we have to think about health and safety and everyone's, just make sure no one breaks their leg, essentially. We literally relaid the road ourselves as young people. Now, I'm not talking about, some contractors coming in. We got the sand, the stones, we started to fill in the whole road and fill in and plank over all the ditches. It's that kind of detail. I mean, there's so much that goes on that you would not even believe. The stage, you would think, okay, you're going to go and make your stage. In Sao Tome, we couldn't find wood. Literally. We just wanted to get plywood, literally plywood, to build the backstage on which we then put the wrap for the design. Couldn't find wood. I went to so many backyard warehouses and stuff. They got this wood and that wood, but they don't have plywood, which is just basic simple plywood, right? You go to any B&Q or home base, you can buy it, right? In Sao Tome, you can't buy plywood. We had to get it from Ghana. We had the Ghana Air Force, with the Ghana Air Force plane, bring in about 3 tons of equipment to bring in to Sao Tome to run this event, because we just couldn't find it. So it was a bit James Bond, right? It's like, you got your own private, basically cargo plane, and you're landing it, filling it up, and then you just land it, and you're with the Air Force, and we needed the Air Force just to basically make sure nothing was going to go wrong, because at least, nobody's going to mess with the Air Force. These are the kind of things that are happening behind the scenes. Okay, wake up. There it is. So, at the airport, this was the hotel. It's a 5-star hotel, but guess what? It was not a 5-star hotel. It was maybe 3 at best. So again, when we're going into these rooms, it's like, oh dear, the furniture's all broken, it's old, there's no, even the bed, it's like, we can't put mother in that bed. We can't, and we're like literally having to refurbish a 5-star hotel because it's not working. It's like that, it's going to be really embarrassing. And then it's like, where do we get the furniture? And so we're going to people who are part of the government. I was visiting their stately homes to look at their furniture and then doing a deal to say, well, how much are you going to charge me if I rent your sofa and your table and chairs to put it in the 5-star hotel or in the green room? So it's this kind of like pretty bizarre situation. So yeah, it's not good enough. But this is it. Like, I'm just going to now start whizzing through everything we start to look at. Which way will she walk into the building? How will she get to the lift? Who's going to be in the lift? Once she gets in the lift, who then goes up and greets her at the door when she gets to her room? And again, everything is worked out in terms of detail, security, everything. And we just carry on. Which are the cars? Even choosing the car, it's like, 1 minute we have a black car, then someone says, maybe we should have a white car. And again, just to find that car in Sao Tome is not easy. But these are little things that suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, now we have to find something else. It's not, it's not going to work. Green room arrangement. So yeah. True Mother's green room, waiting room, backstage. This is just for a luncheon event, just to get to this other hotel. Where's everyone going to sit? Everything is looked into, just even seating plans. Where does everybody go? Where do we put them? So it just continues like this. Schedule. The places that we're going to go and visit. And then, if there's free time, where will we take, the party program? So this is, coming now into like what we're doing in terms of the summit. The plenary, this is like the start of the cue sheet. And you can see there's a lot of detail. Venue. So we had booked the venue. This is basically Parliament, what's like essentially like their Congress. And we had been talking to these guys for weeks and weeks and weeks, and said even fixing their toilets and everything. And then on the day that our cargo planes arrived from Ghana, we're like ready, we're unloading and we're ready to go into this building with all our PA system and everything. And they said, oh, actually we have another event. And they were having a fashion show that they had not told us about on the same stage. So we were literally putting our equipment in the car park because they're like, we can't give you access right now. So we're just last minute, in the middle of the night, arranging some rooms, bringing the equipment up there. And so again, these are the kind of things, it's all production, but these are the kind of challenges that can happen. And we have to deal with very last minute and improvise some kind of solution. So then we do some renders, we kind of think about how do we want the stage to look, and this is the thing, we had to literally build. Like everything on that stage we built. The riser, the back wall, and then those really big, beautiful LED screens like we brought in from Ghana to make it all look a bit wow. I was hanging those, you see those big tall banners? I was hanging those with 3 guys, like with sandals, you know, no help. And okay, I'll tell you the little bit more about the backstory of this, just even to put those banners up. On the morning of the blessing, we're thinking, okay, we'll do a tech rehearsal. We'll get there 6 a.m. and we'll start and finish off all the little tiny details and we'll be ready for when the couples come. We get to this hall and already at 6 a.m. there are people arriving in wedding dresses. And they have occupied these front seats already. And then it's like, okay, and there are babies, mummies and babies. And so it is literally a case of, imagine like this is just one section of the audience. I'm having to move, and of course I don't speak Portuguese, I'm literally having to move all these people out. I was carrying babies. Can I just have your baby? And I would take the baby and say, look after this baby, and another baby. It was like a fireman's rescue kind of mission, just to clear out, so then I could bring this big ladder, which was completely unsafe, and then bring it in, like they've got no sense of like, you know, mind your bags or anything, just bringing in this big ladder. It's like something in a cartoon, you know, and then this little guy who was like, they called him Spider-Man, you know, and then little Spider-Man from Ghana, me and another guy, just basically trying to find a way to balance this ladder against the back walls over here. Nothing safe, and like using little planks just under the leg. You can imagine, just to make it even, and then just literally holding on for dear life to make sure nothing happens. In the midst of babies and ladies in wedding dresses. And then we'd finish one, and it's like, again, just to move to the next side. So it's a bit like, those people came so early, and then we started giving them breakfast. There was food everywhere. It was just, you know, and for some reason we decided at around 10:30, we're going to also serve lunch. So I mean, it was just, you know, this is all going on while we're supposed to be doing a technical rehearsal. And the audience has been there, right, you know. So anyway, wake up. Okay. So this is all the kind of detail that we go through. You know, where we're going to put that banner, obviously sticking that up as well. Podium banners, National Assembly, having an overflow room where we have video and PA set up so that people can watch it if they can't get in the room. Toilets. Catering, huge cost. Okay, here's a little bit of, you know, just to give you a sense of these events. If you want to do a coffee break for a conference, the charge of coffee itself, so if you, let's say you have 900 guests, the cost of coffee for one person and one of your guests is €4, right? But that's not where it starts. That's not where it stops. Because there's a service charge of preparing and bringing that coffee to you, that's another €6. So it's €10 per head to have coffee for one break time, right? So this is like, it's like in that moment we're like, okay, let's try and negotiate this, right? Let's just try and knock this down, and we're looking at even making our own, like, it's like I could hire a barista and a coffee machine and make even good coffee, because this is hotel coffee, which is usually, you know, they overbrew it, it's really stewed and it doesn't even taste great. But that's what they're charging, just for a coffee break. So when we're looking at the budget, you can imagine how much we're just trying to really break it all down, just to kind of make it make sense, really. Because if you're paying €10 just for a coffee, it's terrible, right? Yeah. But that's what hotels and venues and conferences, that's what they charge. That's pretty much their standard rate. So, yeah. just everything in terms of the venue, hotels, registration, like how we're going to do that, again, and almost there, just the staff list, and just some to-do points. So, that's just a sense of that. So I'm basically in the middle of doing all of this again, just now. I just came back from Albania, and we're pretty much doing this whole thing again. We're going to do the summit, we're going to do the festival, the YSP, we're going to of course do the blessing, and one more event in addition this time is the Peace Road, which is the project to cycle, around the world, but creating peace, and like I was saying earlier, creating this kind of road to redemption for people who have been perhaps historically enemy nations or have got some kind of resentment still to work out. So for me, again, it's always about how do we tell that story, otherwise it means nothing. Even, for example, medal ceremonies during the blessing. I don't know if you've seen these events in the past, but somebody gets a medal, like a good governance medal or something like that. And I always think about it from the audience perspective, like, who is this guy? Okay, I know they're important, and I know there may be some government official, but I have no idea who they are. And why are they even getting a medal? For what? So, one of the things that I'm always trying to do is to just think, okay, even if our MC can give a little bit more background about who is this person? And why are we actually recognizing that? What have they done? So that at least there's a sense of there's a reason for this, and it's not just for show, in other words. And I think that's something we can often fall into the trap. These events can end up just looking like it's all for show. And it's like, where's the substance? And the substance, of course, is because, especially with Sao Tome and Principe, and now perhaps also with the event in Albania, what we're looking to really do is some kind of national level restoration event, right? So it's about national level restoration. So it's therefore quite significant having these kinds of representatives and guests participating. So to give you a bit more of an insight into that, I think I can. Okay, great. Okay, sorry about that, little technical thing. But just to give you a sense then, as I was saying about the national level restoration, like how was this kind of really set up? So, Sao Tome and Principe, it's in this very special place in the world, which is called the center of the world, literally. So it's this idea that you have, so that's the kind of, if we zoom out, just to the right is Gabon, just above, you can see Lagos. I landed in Accra, which is to the left, and then I flew in from Accra to that red pin, which is actually the country, Sao Tome and Principe. So that's where it is, and to the right you can see this little statue, which is the center of the world. So it's this nearest point where the equator crosses the prime meridian. So that's why they literally call this point the center of the world. So this was kind of significant in that sense, in terms of like where we were. And, it's one of these, kind of up-and-coming tourist destinations. So there's a lot of Europeans, especially Portuguese, who are coming and investing. Also people from Lebanon who are coming there and actually investing in the country. So it's definitely something that's going to be happening on the way up, in terms of the country coming up. And there's some sense of the background, 70%, 75% literacy, etc., etc. It became independent from Portugal in 1975. So here we are. So we had, there's a big picture of this, these are the people who are attending the blessing. So you had the Prime Minister, the President, and the Speaker. And so this was essentially the first time we've done a blessing where the President and the Prime Minister, Speaker of the House, everybody was on the stage with True Mother doing the blessing. That's essentially basically why this was, considered and understood. It could be this national level, because you had basically everyone who was anyone was literally on the stage. And when you do something like this, there are all kinds of protocol issues. Like, so the head of protocol for the government was, very much, wanting to do things her way, and of course we wanted to do it our way. So there was a bit of kind of pushing and pulling there. But at the end of the day, the president came out on stage and actually was there and present, came out with True Mother to do the blessing. So these are contexts that have been developed like over the last few months, and there is, you know, the intention to now continue doing something in this area. So yeah, the usual stuff as you would expect. This particular where is he? It's not there. Can you see the gentleman on the left? He brought a whole plane of people, his own plane of people that he paid for. And they were like, in the audience, they were all wearing white suits or white dresses with white headscarves. So all the women were in the same dress and all the men would have the same white suit.
You're from which country? Where did you?
Ghana.
From Ghana.
Yeah, so they literally, they brought a whole plane of people and they were there, and he was giving one of the interfaith prayers. And, you know, and then they were, I was on the control desk, so they wanted to bring in their own broadcasting. If you remember the blessing video that I showed at the beginning, the fast-paced moving one, at the end it's got the TVS logo, because literally we were broadcasting everything on live TV. I think the blessing in Sao Tome was probably one of the longest ever live broadcast events in the history of Sao Tome television, because we were there from 6 o'clock in the morning, and you know the official program didn't really start officially till around 4 o'clock, and we were already broadcasting the technical rehearsal. So yeah, they were basically on TV for hours and hours. It's a bit like Live Aid or something, you know, it was just going on forever. And we did that the same for the YSP and the summit. We were broadcasting live. And so other people were coming and trying to get our feed, our audio feed, our video feed to live stream it. Okay, so again, there he is, the President Carvalho standing with True Mother. This was at the summit. And Kathy Rigney, who's the continental leader there, she's as you probably know, she's been there for many years. She's a real stalwart, I mean, of the continent, and she was actually doing a lot of this whilst her daughter is in a bit of a, she's in a health crisis right now because her daughter's got cancer. So she was just dealing with all of this, which is a big thing for anyone to kind of have on your shoulders, whilst also her daughter was basically going through the treatment. So as soon as this finished, of course, she went straight back to her daughter. So again, they're all things that are happening behind the scenes, which again, you know, if you're just looking at it on the surface level, you would never know, right? So just to take you through these. So this is the signing of a declaration, a Sao Tome declaration. We did this also in Cape Town. So Cape Town, like I mentioned earlier, I came there like 3 days before the event. And then about a month later, I was sitting in a cafe in West London, where I live, in Hanwell. And I was just having my flat white, and my phone rings, and it's Hyunuk, who's basically the kind of main translator for True Mother. He's also the kind of right-hand man of Dr. Yoon, who is our Secretary General. And he calls me up and says, okay, Tiger's just telling me the lunch is ready. And then he tells me, look, we're doing this event in Johannesburg, and we need you to come, and it starts tomorrow. And I'm sitting literally in my usual flat white cafe place. So by 7 o'clock that evening, I'm on a plane, and the next day morning, 9 o'clock, I'm in Johannesburg, and then I'm running the summit. Like basically, literally, all that stuff that I showed you before, literally, I read it all on the plane to Johannesburg, and then I arrived, and then then I'm dealing with Peace TV and the local production services company, and everyone's basically in a bit of a confused state. So basically I landed, and the same evening of the day that I landed, I went to Orlando Stadium, which is one of these big, you know, stadiums that they use for the World Cup. And I ran the rehearsal for the blessing in the middle of this stadium, like just literally like just by simply having understood on paper what they wanted to do, and then meeting all of Mandela's team, and then being this kind of middle person that tries to stitch it all together. And of course, then the next day running the blessing, which turned out basically quite well. I mean, even though it was all a bit of a very last minute job, but they were quite happy with the actual end result. But we also signed a declaration at that time, and so this is what we did in also Sao Tome. So yeah, and then again, these pictures, in terms of, I guess, the future legacy for our movement, they're quite important, I think, in terms of, you know, doing something that's on the national level. And of course we had entertainers, these guys were great, Haitan Diaz and this other guy coming in, and the blessing. We donated a fire truck to the government because they don't have anything like that. And so even though it's it's a big contribution in one sense, but it's going to save lives. And I think that's, in a nutshell, that's what we're about. What we're about is saving lives. So the fire truck was a good gift. And actually it's something that they had requested. They wanted something like that because they literally don't have it. They have a department, they have a police, they have an army, but they just are not very well set up. So yeah. Apart from that, like those videos that you saw earlier, like of the kids doing the summer camp and we basically restored 6 schools around the country, literally like building and restoring, and of course things to do with water, sanitation, all those kinds of projects. So those are ongoing. And then the center, one of the centers where we had the kids from YSB staying, we're looking to now maybe buy that building. And what I was suggesting to do is to create some kind of youth hostel there. Because there's a lot of backpackers, a lot of travelers who come to Sao Tome. They want to travel, they want to bike around the country. It's a great place to just go for an adventure island, of course. And of course the beaches and everything else. So, whilst we're there, we see that a lot of young people are starting to come and explore the country. So wouldn't it be great to have our own youth hostel there? Just a bit like a Christian, if you travel, I travel a lot, you'll find Christian youth hostels and places where you can stay. So it's like having our own youth hostel there, where we can then welcome people, we can give them tours, they can plug into some of our activities, and at the same time, it gives a way for us to do something that's going to be sustainable. We'll buy some bikes and people can rent the bikes from us. And then this way, the second generation, especially the ones from Brazil, Colombia and Argentina, who were really inspired, they came back. They did their initial service project, they went back, and then they came back to Sao Tome because they wanted to continue. To be a part of what we were doing there. So it's likely that some of those second gen will come back and carry on, basically everything that's been set up. Because now we know everybody in Sao Tome and Principe. We know everybody. So, we have all the connections now. So it's really the best time for us to build on that and not just disappear. Okay, that's Bakary. Again, he works with Kathy. And then here's the students, they were singing for True Mother. This is Koji Matsuda, he's the vice president for YSB. I was working with him quite a lot. And of course, they were able to perform culture, service. This is some of the work that we're doing in the schools. Education programs. And of course, you saw the rest through the videos. I want to show you something, but I'm a bit worried it might not work in terms of the technical. But essentially, when we did the concert, which was this huge outdoor concert stadium, the week before I found a drone cameraman just filming some other events. I hired him for our event. And so we have this amazing shot of our concert where the drone just flies up from the stage and it starts to zoom out. We've got 2 big screens on the side. It comes out to the middle of the square, and then you've got 2 other big LEDs on the middle of the square, and it just carries on flying back, and you're just seeing this sea of people, and it gets right back, basically to the ocean, and then it rises straight up, and then comes back over the crowd. And in the middle, there's this big pink blob, and that's me on the control desk, because I was wearing a pink shirt. I don't dress up, basically. All these events, like even when Mother came, I was just literally in my shorts and stuff. It's like, I'm too busy. I have to do this, and then I have to go back straight to the stage. And so I'm going to conclude with something that connects with this. So often I'm just like as I am. I don't particularly do any kind of formal events. I'm always the guy somewhere trying to make it happen rather than in the private meeting or something like that, or some VIP event. So in the midst of all of that, this happened. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it on screen, but I hope so. Can you see that? In the midst of all of this, while I was in Sao Tome, I'm working like whatever it is, I'm just working all the time basically. I don't know why they give me a bedroom. It's like, anyway, at some point then Dr. Yun comes in and says, hey, you know, AJ, because I've done a few of these events now, and he's like, AJ, you know, I've been telling mother, and he's telling me, like, you know, basically he has a nickname for me, because obviously my name is AJ, and he's been basically telling mother, oh, it's AJ Arju. So this goes back to Cape Town. In Cape Town, I became Arju, or AJ Arju. And he'd come to me and say, hey, AJ, like he said, yeah, so, you know, and he's, Dr. Yun, he's about my age, basically. So I don't, you know, I have no, what can I say? You know, for me, it's like, I'm not somebody who holds on to coattails. If I see something's wrong, I just tell it like it is. I'm not a yes man. In the meetings, I'm just pretty straight. And I think they got that immediately from Cape Town, that I was just, you know, and I think that's why they kind of like me in one way. They kind of like, because I'm not there just to, you know, flatter them. I'm not the Emperor's New Clothes guy. I am like, I'm going to just tell it like it is. If it's not working, it's not working. And if it doesn't make sense, it just doesn't make sense. And they don't have enough people, unfortunately, who are prepared to just stick their neck out and do that. Everyone just wants to go along to get along, it seems. You know, that's part of the culture we need to change. But anyway, Dr. Yun says, you know, I've been telling mother, and maybe, you know, you should meet her. And so he's saying, like, since Johannesburg, and then this time. And he's been asking me a few other things. So anyway, in Sao Tome, he says, so yeah, maybe you should now come and meet your mother. We'll set it up the next day. And again, but I'm just really busy, so I'm not really thinking about that too much. But anyway, I was in the middle of going somewhere, and he told me, okay, you should get ready. And he says, and I'm just like, you know, he says, you should put a suit on. And I literally said, I don't have a suit. This is as good as it gets. You know, I have a blazer, and that's it. I don't do ties or anything else. And I realized, okay, I have some. I brought some shoes, and I've not worn these shoes for 2 years. Like I wear these chunky trainers because I'm just on my feet most of the time. So I said, okay, I'll put my shoes on. You know, that's what I can do if that looks a bit more smarter. So I put on my shoes, and I just said, okay, just wait here. And then he brings me up to True Mother's room, and then there I was, and it's like, okay, you know, and there's Hyunuk who's translating. And I was surprised because basically she knew already a few things about the family. She was like, oh, you know, like, oh, I know you've got your 6 kids, and I know you've done this. Like, oh, okay. Like, Dr. Yun's basically been telling her some stuff about the family and about us. So, of course, she was very kind. She said some very complimentary things. And then she asked me to do some things as well. But at the end of it, she said, okay, you know, let's take a picture. And I was thinking, okay, we're going to just stand. But she sat down on the sofa. And I was like, I was looking around like, should I like, I really didn't know. I thought I'd just kind of, you know, do like this. There's no, you got to sit, like, you know, you got to sit. Like, and I'm like a big guy, right? So I was literally like, okay, I'm just gonna squeeze myself in here, just gonna park myself next to her. And I was there just like, okay, all right, this is kind of, and you know, and the Koreans are like, okay, now we're gonna do pictures. And you know, they have this thing that they do, like, they have different things they have to do when you take a picture. Like one of them is like, sungi, whatever, and then they do this thing that they do this, whatever that is. Well, like, and I don't do that, that's just not me. So there's one picture where they're like, do this, it's like, what? And my face is just really confused, and like, no, you have to do this. It's like, you know, I'm next to them, like, I don't do that, that's not, you know, that's not my thing, like, whatever that is, you know, little hearts, little cutie hearts. I'm not some, you know, anyway, I didn't, but I was like, okay, let's take the picture, and I was just looking at her, it was just like a nice moment. And then there's another one like it, just, where is it? Where's mine? Here it is. Yeah, here's another one. Let's bring this one over. So I'm just laughing a bit, basically. I was like, oh, this is a bit strange. Like, okay, hi. And then at that moment, just because it was a bit kind of casual, I think, it was just, a bit, and she was just, like I said, she already said something quite, it seemed like there was like a little bit of a personal connect there. So I was really tempted just to reach my arm out. It's like, hello, like a proper hug, like a proper mummy hug, like, hello, like, I was so close. But then I knew, no, the Koreans are here, they're not gonna, they're gonna like, oh, what are you doing? So, but that was just my character. It's like, oh, I can do that, like, and then they finished all of this thing that you have to do, right? And then I was like, okay, so I don't know what happens next. So I just carried on sitting there. I was just sitting there chatting away, and then at one point she just kind of looks at me, and then she says something like in Korean, obviously I didn't understand at the time. And then she just kind of, and she literally slaps me on the back like this, like, poof, like that. It's like, it's like, and then she says something in Korean, it was something like batata or something like that, anyway. And I was like, okay, yeah, great, that's nice, it's kind of like, feels good, it's like a encouragement, like, yeah, boom. And then afterwards I was told that what she basically said to me is like, you're big and chunky. So she called me chunky, like chunky guy, like boom, chunky guy, off you go, and that was that moment, and it's just like, I was like, oh, okay, and afterwards, so that's now my other new nickname. So basically, Mike Balcom and other people, they just tease me, they say chunky, like Mr. Chunky, even in like a public meeting. So yeah, I've ended up with two nicknames. One is Arju, and now one is Chunky, or Chunky Arju, or whatever, whichever variation you want of that. But for me, that moment was quite important because I guess, coming back to the topic and just to conclude, it was about providential purpose. At that moment, I could share directly with Mother, what is my providential purpose? And I told her all about my commitment to Hyojinim, to media, to arts, and also to now, even as I see it personally, to Hyojinim's children, to Shinchul and Shinhong. I can see they're being put into these kind of limelight situations, and my heart very much is looking to care for them, to protect them, because I've seen what's happened, to their uncles over the years, and I really feel like if we're not there for them, even though they're going to be, Mother's now looking to match them in a few years, maybe to have them, maybe I think in 3 years' time, and maybe in about 8 years' time, maybe give them some official responsibility. So I can see where that's going, but at the same time, my heart is, or certainly in my case, I want to make sure we can be there to guide them, to protect them, so so that things continue. Like I've said in the past, I'm always thinking about fourth generation. I don't think about, people often ask me, are you first, are you second gen? Let's talk about fourth generation. Let's just get ready for the growth stage, guys. We're just the foundation stage. Let's get ready for that fourth generation. And everything I'm doing is pretty much in terms of providential purpose, thinking about that road ahead in terms of like building our foundation now. So like I said, these events, Summit, Blessing, even the YSP, foundation of faith, foundation of substance for our future. Okay, I'm sorry it was quite long. There's so much other things I could share about practical things and detailed things. But I'll be back from the Balkans. I'm going back to the Balkans next week, 2 weeks. And I'll be able to share something about that in the end of October. Yeah. Okay. There's one other secret I can't tell you right now, so I'm just going to let you know that there might be some changes in the future. So I'm going to just let you know as soon as I know, I guess. So let's see. All right. Okay, everyone. Have a great week. Huh?
Change where?
It's
Here, your family or how?
yeah, everywhere. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. We have to move on. We have to go forward. We have to just continue. That's the main thing. Just never give up. That's it. All right, guys. Lunch is ready, I'm sure. You must be really hungry. Let me just conclude with a short prayer. Dearest Heavenly Father, thank you for giving me this opportunity to report about these providential events. I really hope that I could give some background to that, as well as a practical insight, and then ultimately also some providential sense of why these events are happening. Father, it's a journey for us all. It's something for us to really try to grasp, as well as to hopefully in some way be able to contribute. And I'm sure that in many ways we can all do that. And I look forward to, Father, continuing to working with our community and making sure that in whatever way we can, Father, we can also find ways to be part of that providential purpose, both in our families and, Father, as a community. I report these things and offer this prayer in my name, Ajay Rai, husband and father of a blessed central family, Arju.